start back being cool. So she want to know why you blocked her.
I seen how y'all going. I was like, I'm not even
Wait,
part of it.
but you know what, Scrap? I will tell you this. You wrong because you was flirting with her for a very long time.
You said I was flirting with her?
Why was that wrong?
Show it,
though?
show it.
Don't flirt with the eye. Don't go with the friends. Don't go with the people in the circle. I just want everybody to know.
Bambi shared a heartfelt message, revealing that she has been deeply affected by Scrappy's condition despite their painful history. She asked fans to keep Scrappy in their prayers for a full recovery. But is this just concern, or is there something deeper going on? The entertainment industry is in shock as Bambi finally broke her silence on Scrappy's heartbreaking suicide attempt, just days after the devastating incident where he was found unconscious in his home. Fans have been desperate to hear from Bambi, and now with emotions running high and prayers pouring in, she has finally spoken. But the real question remains, does she still love Scrappy? And more importantly, could this tragedy lead to their reunion? Stay tuned as we break down Bambi's response, Scrappy's current condition, and the emotional roller coaster that has left fans in disbelief. Sitting in his dimly lit room, the weight of his emotions pressed down on Scrappy like a crushing force. His phone buzzed constantly, messages from friends, family, and fans flooded in. Everyone was worried, asking questions, but no one could truly understand the emptiness consuming him ever since Bambi walked away. Once full of life and energy, Scrappy now felt like a shadow of himself. The thought of Bambi moving on, living her life without him, tore him apart piece by piece. He had always been a fighter, facing challenges head-on, but this was a battle he didn't know how to win. Rumors started swirling when Scrappy posted a cryptic message on social media, sending the internet into a frenzy. Fans and friends were desperate for answers. Mama D did everything she could, calling, visiting, even forcing Scrappy to sit down and talk about his feelings. Insiders revealed that Scrappy had been struggling with severe depression. Then, in the dead of night, the truth became painfully clear. He called Bambi, his voice trembling as he whispered, "I don't know how to do this without you." His heart pounded in his chest. Despite her sympathy, Bambi stayed firm. "Scrappy, we can't keep doing this. You need to find your peace, and I need to find mine," she said. The call ended. Scrappy sat there, his hands shaking, his mind spiraling. He felt lost, broken beyond repair. That was the moment he made a decision that sent shockwaves through everyone who cared about him. The next morning, Diamond, a close friend and fellow rapper, arrived at his house after receiving a string of alarming texts. What she saw was horrifying. Scrappy was barely conscious, his face pale, his body weak. Empty bottles were scattered across the floor, a haunting sign of his desperation. With her hands shaking, Diamond called 911, pleading for help. Within minutes, paramedics arrived, rushing Scrappy to the hospital. The news broke almost immediately, flooding social media with messages of hope and support from the music industry, his friends, and even his exes. As people came forward to show their love and concern, Scrappy lay unconscious in his hospital room, the steady beeping of machines monitoring his vitals filling the silence. Mama D refused to leave his side, her hands clasped together as she whispered prayers under her breath. "Lord, don't take my baby," she pleaded. The pain of seeing her son in such a fragile state was unbearable. Hours passed as doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize him. The tension in the air was suffocating for everyone waiting, just for a sign, a movement, anything. As word spread about Scrappy's hospitalization, fans and celebrities flooded social media with messages of support. But there was one voice everyone was waiting for: Bambi. Her silence only fueled speculation. Was she ignoring the situation? Did she not care? Or was she struggling with emotions she wasn't ready to share? Late in the evening, after endless speculation, Bambi finally spoke. She posted a simple yet powerful message on Instagram, a black background with white text that read, "Praying for Scrappy, wishing him strength and healing." The post sent the internet into a frenzy. Fans dissected every word, every emoji, searching for hidden meaning. Was this just a polite gesture, or did it? But the public's reaction was mixed. Some fans praised Bambi for being mature and showing concern, while others accused her of hypocrisy. One comment read, "Too little, too late." Others defended her, saying that no one should wish harm upon another person. The controversy escalated further when an old video resurfaced, one where Scrappy confessed that Bambi had been his one true love. While no one could predict the future, one thing was clear: this story was far from over. As Scrappy slowly regained consciousness, his first words sent shockwaves through the hospital room. With a weak, trembling voice, he asked, "Where's Bambi?" Then, with tears streaming down his face, he whispered, "I just wish things were different. I still love her." With emotions running high, fans began speculating. Would this tragedy bring them back together? Or was this just a painful reminder of what could never be? Meanwhile, Bambi was battling her own internal struggle. Friends revealed that she had been crying in private, overwhelmed with guilt. What if I had just answered his call? What if I had been there for him? She reportedly confided in a close friend. But deep down, she knew she couldn't change the past. Back in the hospital room, Scrappy squeezed his hand into a fist, his eyes closing as a single tear slid down his cheek. He had nearly lost everything: his life, his family, his chance at redemption. But in that moment, only one thought consumed him: Bambi. The hospital room was eerily silent except for the steady beeping of machines monitoring Scrappy's vitals. Mama D sat by his side, her hands clasped together in prayer, whispering through her tears, "Lord, don't take my baby." The weight of the moment was suffocating. Doctors worked tirelessly, but the uncertainty in the air was unbearable. Hours passed, and then a faint movement. As the news of Scrappy's overdose spread like wildfire, fans, celebrities, and industry insiders flooded social media with messages of concern. But amidst the outpouring of love, there was one name everyone was waiting for: Bambi. Her silence was deafening. Was she ignoring it? Did she even care? Speculations ran rampant until, late that evening, she finally broke her silence. Her Instagram post was stark: black background, white text, praying for Scrappy, wishing him strength and healing. The internet erupted. Was this just a polite acknowledgement, or did it mean something deeper? Some praised her maturity, while others ripped into her, calling it too little, too late. Then an old video resurfaced, Scrappy once confessing that Bambi was the only woman he ever truly loved. Inside the hospital, tensions were high. Family members filled the waiting room, their nerves frayed. Diamond paced furiously, fists clenched. "How the hell did it get this bad?" she hissed. In the corner, Erica Dixon, Scrappy's other ex and the mother of his daughter, sat with her arms crossed. "We all saw the signs," she murmured, guilt-lacing her voice. Mama D, eyes swollen from crying, refused to leave Scrappy's bedside. "He needs all the love he can get," she told a friend. And then it happened. Scrappy's fingers twitched. His eyelids fluttered. His first breath felt like a resurrection. Mama D gasped, gripping his hand tighter. "Baby," she whispered. Slowly, weakly, his eyes opened, glassy and unfocused. He struggled to speak, his throat dry, but one word escaped his lips, barely a whisper. "Bambi." The room went still, the energy shifted, but she wasn't there. Mama D swallowed hard, torn between relief and heartbreak. "She's been praying for you," she said gently. "She just couldn't be here." And then, as if on cue, the hospital door creaked open. Bambi stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable, her presence commanding. Every eye in the room turned to her. Scrappy's heart pounded against his ribs. Time stood still. She took a slow step forward, the sharp clicks of her heels echoing through the room. Stopping beside his bed, she looked down at him, her lips pressed into a tight line. "Why, Scrappy?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Why would you do this?" His breath hitched, his throat tightened. His emotions, raw and unfiltered, spilled out in a single, soul-crushing confession. "Because I don't know how to live without you." And just like that, the world was watching, breathless, waiting to see if this tragedy would reunite them or prove that some love stories are destined to end in heartbreak. The room was suffocating with silence. The weight of their past, their heartbreak, and their love pressed down on them like a force neither could escape. Scrappy reached for Bambi's hand, desperate, pleading, but she hesitated before finally letting him touch her. "I didn't want you to go through this alone," she admitted, voice trembling. "I was scared. I didn't know if I should come, but I had to pray for you." Revealed. Scrappy's grip tightened slightly, his emotions raw. His eyes, usually filled with fire, were now empty, lost. "Bambi, love isn't enough sometimes," she whispered, looking away as if the pain of meeting his gaze would break her. "And we both know that." But Scrappy refused to accept that. Not now, not after coming so close to the edge. The world was watching, holding its breath. Would this be the moment that changed everything? Or was this just another chapter in a tragedy too painful to rewrite? Lying in that hospital bed, barely holding himself together, Scrappy realized one thing. This was his second chance, but what would he do with it? Bambi exhaled sharply, finally whispering, "Right now, the only thing that matters is you getting better, one step at a time." As she stepped back, watching the doctors check on Scrappy, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Fear. Not fear of losing him, but fear of what it meant if she stayed. BFA 8 ILFEL apart. His phone had been buzzing nonstop. Friends, family, fans, everyone was worried. Everyone had questions. But no one understood the emptiness that had swallowed him whole. Scrappy, once full of life, energy, and charm, now sat in his dark apartment, staring blankly at the walls. The memories of Bambi, the love, the fights, the loss, played like a cruel movie in his head. Mama D had tried everything. Calls, visits, even forcing him to sit down and talk about his pain. But nothing worked. Nothing could undo the destruction Bambi's absence had caused. And then the rumors started. A single cryptic message from Scrappy on social media had set the internet on fire. Fans speculated. Friends panicked. Everyone wanted answers. But Scrappy, he stayed silent. Until the night he finally broke. It was past midnight when he dialed Bambi's number. His voice was shaking. His heart was screaming. "I don't know how to do this without you," he whispered. And in that moment, the world stood still. The next morning, Scrappy's close friend and fellow rapper Diamond arrived at his house after receiving a series of alarming texts. But nothing could have prepared her for what she found. Scrappy was barely conscious. His face was pale, his body weak. Empty bottles littered the floor, a haunting testament to how deep his despair had sunk. His heart pounded in his chest, his breathing was shallow. Yet, even as Bambi stared at him, concern flickering in her eyes, she remained firm. "Scrappy, we can't keep doing this. You need to find your peace, and I need to find mine." Diamond's hands shook as she grabbed her phone. "We need help now." She dialed 911, her voice breaking with panic. Minutes later, paramedics rushed Scrappy to the hospital. And then the world found out. The internet exploded with support and BACKLASH. The news spread like wildfire. Within minutes, Scrappy's name was trending as fans flooded social media with messages of love, concern, and prayers. Even his exes, past collaborators, and industry rivals set aside their differences to show support. Inside the hospital, machines beeped steadily as Scrappy lay unconscious. Diamond sat by his side, her hands clenched together in prayer. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "Lord, don't take my baby." The pain of losing Bambi still weighed on him like a dark cloud. The heartbreak ran deep. Doctors worked for hours to stabilize him, but the tension was unbearable. Every second that passed felt like an eternity. Then, movement. A slow blink, a faint whisper. Scrappy was waking up. Relief flooded the room, but the battle was far from over. Bambi breaks her silence. Fans divided. Days passed before Bambi finally spoke. She appeared on Instagram Live, her face solemn, her voice shaking. "Scrappy has a good heart," she said, eyes glistening with emotion. "He's been through a lot, and I know he can get through this too." Fans had mixed reactions. Some rushed to defend her, saying that breakups are painful and no one person is responsible for someone else's struggles. Others blamed her, accusing her of being the reason for Scrappy's downward spiral. But his close friends stepped in. One wrote, "Scrappy needs support, not judgment. Let's lift him up, not tear anyone down." What happens next? A source close to Scrappy revealed. Doctors say he's stable, but he needs time. Right now, the focus is on his mental and emotional well-being. Fans continue to rally behind him, flooding the internet with messages of hope using hashtag #StayStrongScrappy. And, for the first time in a long time, as Scrappy lay in his hospital bed, scrolling through the overwhelming love and support, a small smile appeared on his lips. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as alone as he thought. But the question remains, will this bring Scrappy and Bambi closer? Or is their story truly over? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.